Wash Bay isn't just a field of warehouse by the water. It's a complete early 20th century port system. Finger piers, timber cargo sheds, bridges and roads, rock-cut edges, and engineered shoreline. Together, they form a coherent industrial landscape. So, the old here isn't only about facade style. It's also about structural logic, spatial order, material character, and scale. Basically, the way a mechanized harbor once worked. What's interesting about the renewal is that it doesn't treat the old wharf as a backdrop and then drop in a brand new object. Instead, it embeds a new programs, new circulation, and new spatial experiences into the existing dock system. So the old framework still sets the tone. In other words, it's adaptive reuse where preserving the original spatial order is the starting point. The wharf isn't replaced, it's made to operate again differently. A smart move here is that the project holds on to the four elements that most clearly define Wash Bay's identity: shale, structure, volume, and rhythm. Whether you are looking at the pier 2 or 3 or the wharf 4 or 5, the heavy timber frame is still the main thing you read. The long finger-like pier volumes are still there. The repetitive column base still sets the tempo, and the industrial openness is largely retained. Those are the cues that keep this place recognizable as a working port landscape, even though the uses have changed. That's the first way to judge new versus old here. When the historic structure and order remain legible, the new intervention isn't competing for attention. It's letting the heritage stay readable. But returning doesn't mean freezing the site in time. In many parts of Wash Bay, heritage is represented, almost curated. Salvaged and removed wharf timber shows up again in shared spaces. Old cargo doors and heritage lighting are restored and retrofitted. At Pier 2 and 3, heritage items are displayed, and there's even a cutout in the floor that lets you look straight down into the harbor water. This is powerful because it turns industrial traces into something people can actually see and understand. But it also raises a critical question. Are we continuing the wharf's original logic, or are we turning it into a heritage experience? Something to look at, photograph, and consume? The project strengthens heritage visibility, but it also reshapes what heritage means in everyday use. What makes Wash Bay especially skillful is that it doesn't try to disguise the new part as old. Instead of fake heritage styling, new elements often appear in a contemporary language, but with restraint. A good example is the added staircase gantries on Pier 2 and 3. They echo the cranes and industrial frameworks of the old docks in Oval 4, but the detailing is clearly modern. It's not a blunt collision, and it's not imitation. It feels more like a contemporary response shaped by memory. So overall, Wash Bay's renewal largely enhances the site because it keeps the old spatial order in control while making the precinct genuinely usable as cultural infrastructure. At the same time, it also redefines heritage. Part of the industrial past become curated, staged, and experienced differently. What you're left with is a place where history and contemporary systems sit side by side, and that's exactly where the project becomes most interesting. Not in making new look old, but in showing how an old industrial landscape can be remade without losing its identity.